Hi there, my name is Chris, and this is Late Listening. What are we listening to today? Replicants. What? What's this? This is an album from 1995 that is basically like a one-off supergroup. It is Ken Andrews and Greg Edwards of Failure, joined by Paul D'Amour of Tool, the original incarnation of Tool. He played on Opiate and Undertow, and also Chris Pitman, who's a keyboardist and he's in other things. Who's Chris Pitman? It's now 2026, but in 2025 I was doing a series on albums that came out in 1995, and this is one that I didn't get to but was high on my list. And I've always really liked this record. It's very weird and interesting, and all of the songs are covers, and yet they're all kind of really unique. It's got covers of The Cars and Paul McCartney and John Lennon, Pink Floyd, not Pink Floyd, Pink Floyd, and also Syd Barrett, both Pink Floyd and Syd Barrett, as well as Gary Numan, and even Steely Dan, right? Is that Steely Dan? Oh, and don't forget David Bowie. So yeah, really fun, and I hope you'll join me for my little record review. I like everything about this record. I like the weird cover art. I like how the box opens and then all of the band members are in a bunch of styrofoam peanuts for some reason. You can see all the credits here on the inside. And also, it's kind of cool, guest lead vocals on Silly Love Songs by Maynard Keenan. I just want to add here real quick that the reason this album exists at all is because of Maynard. Basically, Matt Marshall, Tool's A&R guy, heard some of the demos the Replicants were recording. And side note to my side note, a lot of the songs on here are actual studio demos. Like they were not re-recorded, which is a testament to both these musicians and also Ken Andrews as a producer. And they were using the equipment that Failure would later use to record Fantastic Planet, so it sounds, fantastic. But what was I saying? Yeah, so Matt Marshall told the band that he could probably get them enough money to make a record. Then, Zoo Entertainment, which was Tool's label at the time, said they would in fact finance a covers record if and only if Maynard James Keenan sang at least one song. So, there you have it. Thanks, Maynard. Alright, back to the liner notes. What's this? Special Alien Debriefment on Destination Unknown by Sid Kato, or Kato, who is actually Ken Andrews' wife. I like looking at the credits here because it's kind of amazing, like, what all of these people do. Like, for example, you don't think of Greg Edwards as a drummer. He does drums, percussion, guitar, keyboards. The man is just a monster. He's, like, so talented. And Paul D'Amour, when he was with Tool, he was the bassist of Tool. And he had some really great bass lines, like Check Out Sober or Undertow the Song. But here he plays guitar, which he's originally a guitarist, and he sings the lead vocals on Ibiza Bar by Pink Floyd. And of course Chris Pitman doing his best Bowie impression on the Bewlay brothers, and also playing keyboards and doing backing vocals and acoustic guitar. Really great stuff. And you can see all the credits here, who wrote the songs, and this wonderfully weird early CG art. Some of these kind of remind me of like the cover of Tool's Opiate EP. I just want to quickly plug a related album here. I was joking earlier when I was saying, who's Chris Pitman? But there's actually a pretty good album by Paul D'Amour and Chris Pitman called Lusk. The band is Lusk. The album is Free Mars. And as you can see here on the back, Matt Marshall, remember? Tool's A&R guy who was behind the Replicants getting financing for their album? Well, here he is again. You can see Paul D'Amour and Chris Pitman there, looking pretty psychedelic. This album is pretty hard to find in terms of physical media, but I believe it's on Spotify, and of course you can find it on YouTube. Ken Andrews is such an interesting guy. I really love him. He's one of the few people who learned to both play a guitar and also how a studio worked at the exact same time. So he uses the studio as an instrument, which I've always found to be kind of interesting. He just has a really cool sense, really great production. I'm a huge fan of Ken Andrews. I have a bunch of his like non-failure things. And I don't mean non-failure as in like he's a failure. I mean the band Failure. And I feel like a lot of people don't know this record, but if you like Ken Andrews, of course, if you like Ken Andrews, you probably know this record. But if you like Failure, or if you're just getting into Failure because they've got a new record coming out, usually I recommend these things at the end of the video, but I'm going to do it at the beginning. Let's start with Ken Andrews' album Secrets of the Lost Satellite from 2007. This is a fascinating record, both because it kind of came out of nowhere and also because it just has a lot of really good songs on here, a lot of really interesting sounds. Yeah, he mixes things in a really unique way. Of course, Failure, Fantastic Planet. I haven't done this one as a record review yet. I did one about Magnified, which is a great record, Failure's second record. They reunited a few years ago, and they've been putting out records since, and their records have still been great. One thing about the Replicants that I can say is I feel like the sound of this record kind of bridges like the alternative rock guitar sound as well as like electronics a little bit, and guitars that don't sound like guitars to some degree, and Chris Pitman doing the synthesizers and things like that, Greg Edwards as well. And that kind of reminds me of Ken Andrews' project called On. Secrets of the Lost Satellite sounds more like Failure, like it's more guitar-based, whereas On is much more electronic and kind of dancey, poppy. Maybe he was trying to compete with his ex-bandmate Greg Edwards, because Greg Edwards was doing Autolux at the time. But anyway, Replicants, yes. Replicants has a little bit more of the kind of synthesizers and the danceable, poppy qualities, partly because of the song choices that they pick lend themselves to that more like upbeat sound. So anyway, I'm going to do a little review track by track and just talk about why I love this record and why you should listen to it, because I think it's very overlooked and it's a whole lot of fun. All right, let's get into it. Track 1, Just What I Needed. The Cars. This song is not so different than the original, but I like how it's kind of woozy. Like, I can't really put my finger on exactly why. Something about the synths or the guitars. It almost kind of sounds like a... I hesitate to say shoegaze, because these days everything is shoegaze, but it has that kind of fuzzy, like weird... It's not the perfume that you wear. It's not the ribbons in your hair. And I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time. The pre-chorus synthesizer kind of reminds me of like something off of Pretty Hate Machine. And then, of course, at the very end of the song, Maynard, pissing in the ear of the listener.
Is that what you needed?
Yes, that's what I needed. Track 2, the only song that I know by Wings. Oh, besides that Christmas song, but we don't want to talk about that. No, I don't like Wings. I'm not really a fan of Paul McCartney. I like the Beatles okay. Like, I don't know. I'm not like such a big Beatles fan. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person in the world who doesn't like love the Beatles. But yeah, Wings, no thank you. However, Silly Love Songs also, again, it has this weird kind of I think it's because Maynard has this like water effect on his voice. Which reminds me of like the Undertow days. I think back then he was using that a lot. And in addition to that, he's singing kind of menacing, especially the intro, and the music itself is kind of menacing, and then Maynard's like he seems very angry, and he's got that effect on his voice, and it just sounds kind of creepy. And I feel like that kind of foreshadows his work with A Perfect Circle, like the emotive album where he would take, like, for example, John Lennon's Imagine and turn it to like a minor key, almost like a dirge or something. I like the weird clatter of percussion right before the choruses, like every time. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it sounds kind of cool. Like the whole song breaks down and it gets really big for the chorus. And the bridge, despite saying it isn't silly, love isn't silly, is quite silly, actually. Yeah, but I wonder if that's like on purpose or I don't know. I just have to laugh at like this very silly song being taken so seriously. Paul McCartney, of course, being very meta when he wrote the song, kind of tongue-in-cheek, saying, I'm the guy who writes all of these silly love songs, so why don't I write a song about writing silly love songs? But, the fact that these guys, and plus Maynard, would take it and kind of make it into this weird, like, monster, kind of creepy monster song. Yeah, it's cool, like, I don't know. It's the only way that I can really stand to listen to this song. What's next? Track 3, Life's a Gas. I had never heard of T-Rex or Mark Bolan when I heard this song, because I was a teenager who lived in a remote town and I didn't know much about like classic rock. So I had no idea about this song, but I enjoyed this, like the psychedelic quality, this kind of psychedelic ballad that they put together. Like Ken Andrews sounds so high on this song. I assume he probably was actually high. Amazing guitar work on the solo, and toward the end it really becomes like special, and it makes it even more psychedelic. And track 4, Cinnamon Girl. This is not really a very special cover. I feel like the original is better, because Neil Young is awesome. But this song gets the kind of 90s alt-rock treatment. The hand claps are a nice addition, I guess. And then it's got that crazy cool solo. But yeah, this is not such an amazing cover, but it's just a good, I don't know, it's a good version of it. But is it better than the original? Not really. All right, next, track 5, How Do You Sleep? This was another one where I was not really familiar with the song or the artist. Of course, I grew up listening to the Beatles because of my parents, but I was not familiar with John Lennon's solo work for the most part, and I certainly didn't know this song. And I remember as a teen, I was thinking like, how do you sleep? I mean, I sleep pretty good. Actually, I really like this cover a lot. I get like Nine Inch Nails vibes, or like the David Bowie Outside era, like Outside and Earthling, where like trying to copy the Nine Inch Nails sound, but like not quite. I feel like they're going in that direction almost. It's like some of these songs have kind of an industrial rock quality, and How Do You Sleep is definitely one of them. This one is kind of slow burning. I mean, it's over 6 minutes long, but it has a lot of really cool elements coming in. Like there's this really neat percussion that's like, I think it's bongo drums. I don't think it's conga drums. I think it's bongos, and then there's like the downtuned guitar, and I feel like John Lennon would appreciate this cover. Like it's like, it makes it really, it keeps the original, but it also makes it really interesting and into something else. And then the kind of metaphor of sleep is echoed by this weird production that's going on. And even though this is like 6 minutes and 8 seconds, I actually wish that it wouldn't fade out. I wish it would go on just a little bit longer, because I feel like the kind of the coolest part is that outro, and then it's like it just fades out, and I'm like, no, I just wanted a little more. I want to stay in the dream a little bit longer. Track number 6, another one that I was not familiar with. This song is originally by Missing Persons. Do you know that? Do you know Missing Persons? I don't. I still don't. All right, so this song, I don't really like it. It's a little too happy for me. It's a little too 80s for me. I'm still actually not familiar with the original song. I don't know if it's that similar. I didn't bother to look it up for this video because I just don't really like the song that much. This cover does its best to make me like the song. I'll say that much. Like, it's listenable. Do I skip it? Yes, sometimes. I don't usually skip this record. I usually put it on and just get, enjoy all of my favorite people like jamming together. But this one, yeah, sometimes I'm just like, it's kind of long. It's like over 5 minutes. Like, all right, enough. Destination unknown. I got it already. But this song is one of the ones that really reminds me of Ken Andrews' On project, what I was talking about earlier. And I know that might sound funny because I actually really like On, but I don't really like Destination Unknown. But it's like the kind of upbeat poppy quality, especially the second song, Slingshot. It also has that really kind of upbeat, like very danceable, almost like a club music, but somehow like if you're on too many drugs at the club. Because Ken Andrews is always kind of in outer space. Like the man is just perpetually high. If you watch interviews with him, he's like a really laid back guy. My favorite part of the song is actually the alien debriefing spoken word by Sid Kato, or Kato, who is actually Ken Andrews' wife. And again, there's that weird Latin percussion in the background, so that's also kind of cool. I think Greg Edwards likes like Latin percussion because he's like I never hear that on Failure records. I don't that I can recall. Or Autolux? I'm not sure actually. Like, leave a comment if you know another example of Greg Edwards using Latin percussion in something. But like, I feel like he uses like this weird percussion on this album, and I appreciate that. All right, let's move along. Track number 7, No Good Trying, the shortest song on the record, just a little over 1 minute. Sid Barrett from his solo record. And is it just me, or is Ken Andrews singing with like a faux British accent on this song? Like, it kind of comes and goes, but I feel like he has this little, like, all of a sudden he becomes like a British, or like, I like how this song is basically just like a short, weird little experiment. It just kind of comes in and it does its little crazy and then it disappears. And it sounds like everyone's having a lot of fun. I mean, that's one thing I like about this whole record, is it really sounds like everyone's enjoying themselves. And this song certainly doesn't overstay its welcome. And it just kind of fits. Like, track number 7 is usually like a really, really great song. Like, sometimes it's even like a hit song, or a lot of my favorite songs are track 7s for some reason, 7th tracks. But this one, yeah, not my favorite, but it's really fun. It's a nice little experiment. All right, let's move on. Track number 8, Our Friends Electric, Gary Numan. Maybe they recorded these back to back, because I feel like Ken Andrews' faux British accent is on full display here. This song is actually pretty close to the original. I like it okay. It sounds a little bit happy. Like, the synthesizer makes it kind of happy, if I can say that, which I don't really like that kind of like happy poppy sound. I kind of wish it was a little bit darker. I like Gary Numan's darker music, especially Down in the Park. But yeah, when I listen to this, it's like I hear that synthesizer, I close my eyes, and I'm just seeing all kinds of like rainbow colors. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then track number 9, Dirty Work, Steely Dan. This song I actually am familiar with, and was familiar with from classic rock radio back in the day. I don't like Steely Dan, and I don't really like this cover even, because the song itself is just so like, it just has that like 70s, is Steely Dan 70s, 80s? I don't even know. Like, it has that sound, you know. I do appreciate the weird kind of shoegazy synths and the lazy singing. I don't know. It appeals to me, but it's not really one of my favorites. It's kind of like Destination Unknown. Like, these are the 2 weakest tracks for me. But actually, listening to this album again recently, in preparation for this video, I didn't hate any of these songs as much as I used to. Like, I used to really not like Destination Unknown and Dirty Work, and then recently I felt like, it's okay. Like, as a record, I mean, it's really cool to see their influences and what they chose, and the work that they put into making these covers, you know. But yeah, that not my favorite. All right, track 10, the Bewlay Brothers. I don't know why I used to think this song was called the Bewlay Brothers. I think I'm dyslexic. Chris Pitman taking the lead vocal on this song, and sounding weirdly similar to Bowie himself. Like, he does a pretty good Bowie.
Was asleep to our latent fuss, the Bewlay Brothers.
And then, of course, Greg Edwards again. He's got that weird, like, Latin percussion coming in, and the bongos are back again.
And we frightened the small children away.
I like how it's got all these like different shifting sounds. Like, as it goes along, it keeps the listener kind of engaged with like different sounds coming in and out, and then it builds and builds in intensity, which is also really cool. All right, finally, track 11, Ibiza Bar. This is from the 1969 More soundtrack, which was the 3rd album that Pink Floyd made, following Saucer Full of Secrets. Who's singing the song? Is that Ken Andrews? No, it's Paul D'Amour. So the last 2 songs, Bewlay Brothers is sung by Chris Pitman, and Ibiza Bar is sung by Paul D'Amour. Who knew that guy could sing? Well, when you're in a band with Maynard James Keenan, you're not allowed to sing. We're going out on a psychedelic wave. We're high, we're exhaling smoke. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too. And I would listen to this record when I was stoned. And, inevitably, I would enjoy it. And then inevitably I would always forget about the baby and also the applause that comes in at the end of the song, and it would just kind of creep me out and surprise me every time. All right, that's the end of the track list. I feel kind of sad that like they never did anything else. It was just this one album, just a one-off. I always kind of hoped that maybe the members would get back together and make another album of covers someday, but so far they never have. It just this. All right, that's all I've got. Let me know if you like Replicants, or if you like Failure, you like Tool, or if you know anything about Chris Pitman. Do you like these songs on this album? Do you like classic rock, or do you like 90s versions of classic rock? I would be curious to know. And as always, I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again.